Day 340 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 8, string the integer atoi. Difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go in and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. Implement the myAtoi string s function, which converts a string to a 32-bit signed integer. The algorithm for myAtoi string s is as follows. White space, ignore any leading white space. Signess, determine the sign by checking if the next character is a negative sign or a plus sign, assuming positivity if neither are present. Conversion, read the integer by skipping leading zeros until a non-digit character is encountered or the end of the string is reached. If no digits were read, then the result is 0. Rounding, if the integer is outside of the 32-bit signed integer range, then round the integer to remain in the range. Specifically, integers that are less than -2 to the 31 power should be rounded to -2 to the 31 power, and integers greater than 2 to the 31 power minus 1 should be rounded to 2 to the 31 power minus 1. So it says return the integer as the final result. All right, y'all. I know by reading the question it seems a lot, but once we look at these examples, you'll see it's pretty simple and easy to understand what it is that they want us to do, right? So in example 1, we have the input s equals a string 42. We want to convert it to just a plain integer 42. Explanation says the underlying characters are what is read in and the caret is the current reader position. Step 1, we have a string 42, no characters read because there is no leading white space. Step 2, the string 42, the string 42, no characters read because there is neither a minus sign or plus equal sign. Step 3, the string 42, the string 42 is read in. Boom. And then we get the output 42 as an integer when we started with 42 as a string. Boom. So let's look at example 2 where we may have some positive or negative signs. So in example 2, we have the string s equals a string. We have a white space, then we have the negative sign, then we have a 0, then we have 42, all in one string. The output is just -42. So as you can see just from this, we have to ignore the 0 and we have to ignore the white space. So let's go through the explanation. It says step 1, the string, we have the white space, then we have the negative sign, then 0, then 42. It says leading white space is read and ignored. Step 2, we have the string, we have the negative integer 42, then we have, the negative integer, then we have 0, 42, or we still have the white space, but then we have the negative sign, then we have 0, then we have 42, all in one string. It says the negative sign is read, so the result should be negative. Boom. Then step 3, we have the same thing. We have the white space, then the negative sign, then we have 0, 42, and it says 0, 42 is read in, leading zeros are ignored in the result. So as you can see, we could take this, it has leading white space, this is all in one string, has leading white space, then it has a negative sign. After the negative sign is a 0, then we have the 42, and we have to return just -42, and that's how we got there. So let's look at example 3. So in example 3, we have s equals the string 1337, then it says C0D3. The output is 1337. Explanation says the string 1337 C0D3 has no characters read because there is no leading white space. Boom. Then the string 1337 C0D3, no character is read because there is neither a plus sign or a minus sign or a plus sign. Then step 3, the string 1337 C0D3 says the string 1337 is read in, reading stops because the next character is a non-digit. So we stop right here. As soon as we get to a non-digit, that's where we stop. It doesn't matter if we come across more digits after. It's just as soon as we get to a non-digit, then we stop. Boom. Then we have a few more examples. So let's go through them just to make sure we're doing this question correctly. So in example 4, we have the input s equals a string 0, negative sign 1. Output is 0. Explanation says 0, negative 1. No characters read because there's no leading white space. Then, excuse me. Then once again, same thing. No characters read because there's neither a minus sign or a plus sign. Because remember, the plus sign would have to come before the digit, not after. Well, in this case, it comes after. And remember, from this example, reading stops because the next character is no digit. So just keep that in mind. So boom, then we come here. It says 0 is read in. Reading stops because the next character is a non-digit. Boom. So that's why the output is 0. We stop right here at 0 because the next character after 0 is a non-digit. Then we have example 5, where it might be a trick question, right? So in example 5, we have s equals a string words and 987. Output is 0. Explanation says reading stops at the first non-digit character, and since the first character is a non-digit, it's not leading white space or minus sign or plus sign. It's a character, but it's not a digit. We could stop right there and we could just return 0. Now, I know this all sounds simple enough, but I feel like this is a good skill to have, especially once you see the solution. You'll see how easy it is. So let's go ahead and get into the fun part, the actual solution, y'all. And once again, once we get into this solution, you'll see this is quite a simple, easy way to code. We could code this fairly simply, but I still feel like it's a good skill to have for those who do not know how to handle a question like this or convert a string into an integer. So let's get started. Now the first thing we need to do, we could just check and exit early if the input string contains a plus followed by a space. It would be considered invalid, so we could just return 0. So we could just say, we come right here, we could use a guard statement for that. We could say guard exclamation point s dot contains, so it means s does not contain. That's what that exclamation point means. Then we're going to open up the parentheses. We're going to say plus, we're going to open up the parentheses. Then we're going to open up the quotation marks, and we're going to say plus and put some white space after the plus. And then we can say else, open up the brackets, and we could just return 0. And once again, if the input array contains a plus followed by a white space, that means it's invalid. So we could just stop right there. Boom. Now we can use NSStrings integer value to parse the string into an integer, and that's going to handle leading white space, signs, etc. for us. So in order to do that, we could just say let val equal, open up the parentheses, s as NSS string or NS string. Then we just come over here outside of the parentheses and put integer value, just like that. Now we just need to clamp the value to stay within that 32-bit signed integer range, right? Because remember, they want us to keep it inside of this range right here. So in order to do that, we need to check if the value is greater than the 32 integer range. We could just return it to the max integer 32, the max 32-bit integer range. And if the value is less than the minimum 32-bit integer range, we could just return the minimum integer 32-bit range, because remember, it wants us to round. So if it comes outside this range, we could just round to the max range, the max 32-bit range. And if it comes lower than this range, we could just round to the minimum 32-bit integer range. So in order to do that, we could just say return val is greater than or equal to Then we're gonna say int dot 32. Oh, excuse me, int 32 dot max question mark. So then, if this is true, then we could say, come over here and we'll say int square bracket int 32, excuse me, int 32 dot max. And if it's false, we come over here and we say colon and we say max, open up the parentheses, int, open up the parentheses, int 32, or excuse me, int 32 dot min, come outside of those parentheses but still inside the parentheses, and then we're going to say val, and this is just going to return whichever one is bigger. That's what this max does. Whichever one is bigger is going to return. If the int 32 dot min is bigger, then it will return that, but if val is bigger, then we'll just return val. So with that's all the code she wrote, y'all. That's all it is. So let's go ahead and run it. Make sure. Ooh, okay. So what does it say? Expected separator. Let me see, y'all. Give me a moment. Oh, sorry, y'all. It should be a comma right here. Let's go ahead and give it a run again. Let's see. And it's accepted, y'all. So let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it stays accepted after we submit it, because we all know how LeetCode can get. And look at that, 1 millisecond speeds, 50.13% of users with Swift. Not too bad. We need to work on those numbers. We could get those numbers up as we continue down our LeetCode journey. Like I said, this is a pretty easy solution, easy to understand, easy to learn from, and it's a good skill to have. You need to, as Swift programmers, we need to learn, or we need to know how to convert a string integer into a regular integer. And that's why I picked this problem for today, because it's a skill we all should know and all should be able to do and have in our toolbox. So with that being said, y'all, get one more look at the code. And yeah, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.